Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to this new webinar in the Brand Recovery series. Really nice that you're there. Today, we're going to do a deep dive and we have a few very interesting speakers from abroad, from the Netherlands in the house. We also have one of our clients who will explain is the case. Before we start, I'd just like to give you some practicalities. First of all, in where you have to see this within the broader brand recovery series that we've been presenting to you in the last few months. So what we've seen in the last few months is that brands have seen the reshuffling of their sales channels, and there's some difficulties that they've started to experience in bringing the products to their consumers. On the other hand, we've also seen that people are placing higher or lower priority towards specific product categories or specific industries. And because of that, we've seen that there's a high increase in the importance of tapping into our lower funnel as brands and capture the value of those consumers that already are showing an interest in our products. And so today we're going to tap into that. So keep this in mind when you see today's presentation and the case. Before we start, just a small rule of the game. Feel free to ask any question you want, but if you do so, could I ask you to put them not in the chat, but in the Q&A? We will bundle them, obviously, and then we will confront our speakers with these questions at the end of the presentation. When we talk about the agenda for today, we are going to start with a few words on Dentsu and Merkle by our own CEO, Arjan Pomper. Then we're going to go further into detail into key principles about customer experience and how brands can actually articulate their efforts to optimize this customer experience. This will be done by Jeffrey from Merkle. And then we will put this into practice and show you a case that we did together with Ahold. And we have someone from Ahold here that will be presenting this, which is Jeroen, together with our own Susanne Klein. After that, we will still have some time for questions. And so without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Arjan. So welcome, Arjan.
Thank you, Thibaut. Thank you. For those who don't know me, this is how I look like. You see a small moving picture on top of your screen, but this is when I look good on the picture. I'm really excited to introduce some developments here in order to share some developments here in Belgium, what we've been doing in the past months, and what we're building here in Belgium. Because the great thing about media is that, I mean, I've been around for quite some years now, and it's great that it's an industry that is always evolving, always things are happening. And to be part of a great network such as Dentsu, you always see some countries or some developments that you can tap into. So today you get a sort of sneak preview of what we are building here in Belgium, how we're doing it, and what the background of it is. And I'm really excited that we have some Dutch colleagues, because a very good example that we can look at is in the Netherlands always the operation of data and development and data and the CRM with Merkle. The acquisition that has been done quite some time ago by Dentsu internationally of Merkle with CRM was a clear statement that they were making where the media industry is going. So if you can click on the slide, Thibaut, then you'll see that this is where we come from. So when I was a media planner a long time ago, this is what we did. Basically, we were looking back, and we had research data, we had post-campaign research, and all the data that was actually based on history. So we were looking back, and we created the target group for our clients. And the next phase, basically, that's the now. What we're looking at now today is that we are looking at live information. So we have the social and measure data, so the base of cookies, on the device IDs, web analytics. Basically, we moved from a target group based on historical facts to a more like a personas. We know to whom we are talking to. Well, the next phase clearly is that we are talking about people-based communication. We actually know who those persons are, and even better, based on the direct communication that is possible now. So with their names and addresses and emails and phone numbers or whatever, and personal IDs, we know that they are real people. And even better, we will be possible to sort of predict what they're going to do, what the buying intention is. Therefore, we're looking at the sort of the sweet spots of this. So we combine media as we know it. And for some advertisers, for most advertisers, I must honestly say, TV is still a very important element of the media communication plan because it works for many reasons. Um, Add-on is the digital performance media, sort of digital media, and that combination leads to people-based communication. And that actually is where Merkle comes in. And this is why we are at this moment are working on building Merkle in Belgium. So we have one of our Dutch colleagues, and we call him almost Belgium because he lives truly in the south of the Netherlands, in Breda. That is just Greven. He's helping us to sort of to tap in the rich information that there is available in the Netherlands. So the acquisition of Merkle, as I just mentioned a minute ago, was an international acquisition. But the good thing is that in the Netherlands, Merkle had a very strong operation. So there's over 20 years of experience in Belgium. They have over 250 employees, pure specialists, spread over the country in Breda, in Rotterdam, and in Amsterdam. And basically, we are able now to tap in that. So using all this knowledge from clients like, well, mentioned here on the slide, KLM, Marktplaats, NS, is directly applicable to Belgium. Now, today we're going to see one of the examples that I always use for clients, and I told Jeroen, one of the presenters, that this is not a joke. I really always use it as an example how things should be done. This is a fantastic case that you have a unique view. You can have a unique view on because this is really interesting. This is how I think that the future of communication will be, and it is also an explanation why we are starting Merkle as an operation here in Belgium. So that's the sneak preview. Geoffrey Hoyer is now taking over from me. He is going to give you a little bit more of a strategic context of how it should work. So Geoffrey, over to you.
Yes, okay. Click to start remote control. So see if it works. Yes. Oh, I see I have some trouble here. 1 second, please. Thibaut, could you help me out? Bring it to presentation mode, please.
You can just click on resume slideshow and then above. So if you go to the font tab, you have resume slideshow. You don't seem to see it. Just a second. Does it work now?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
So hi, my name is Geoffrey, and I'm going to deliberate a little bit on how brands can grow. So I first like to start to introduce myself. I'm Geoffrey Hoyer. I'm Vice President for Merkle in the Netherlands. And to start off, actually, I want to bring it a bit back to Steve Jobs. So what do I have in common with Steve Jobs? Actually nothing, only just one small thing. We both did training in type design. And that's very important for me because I think when we talk about digital marketing, we always have to bring it back to the customer experience and actually the customer, and then work back to our CRM, to our media, and to our creative capabilities. So that's something I really would like to point out in this demonstration and show you what it actually means to be very customer-centric. So first thing, the shopper experience has changed a lot the last couple of decades, actually. So in 2000, it looked more like this. It was mainly focused on the pre-purchase phase, and then people would dive into the post-purchase. But with the introduction of Steve Jobs and his first Apple stores, that was already in 2001, I still remember it, things started to shift. So what you see happening there is that Steve opened these wonderful stores and then introduced the iPod. And what happened then is that you actually can buy songs on iTunes within a store, and that's being connected with the internet. And then you start building out this ecosystem actually of devices, of software, of things you can buy. And there was a tremendous shift, I think, for all our industries. So, and that actually kept evolving. So in 2018, you already saw this happening. You had the stores, you bought an iPhone, and based on that iPhone, you start buying songs, you start tapping into the whole ecosystem, which is becoming broader and broader. So actually, Apple is now moving to the games industry, and they have their own television channel, and they have their own content. So really, things are taking off there. And another thing is that what you now see is also that brands are more going verticals. So if you look at Amazon, they want to have more reach. So they have more availability. So they're actually now in our living rooms, and you can say to Echo, I want to buy this or that. You see that thing happening. So when you think about Amazon, you're not only think about buying stuff there, but they also have AWS, and they've got great content on their Amazon channels. And they're also moving into delivery. So you really see the verticalization of Amazon. You see that thing also happening with bol.com. So bol.com is not only there as a web shop, but it's even when it's Sinterklaas, you have this wonderful app and you can buy things there directly through that app. They're moving into different categories. They now are big in fashion. You got great content on Kobo, the e-readers, and you can even pick their stuff up at the Albert Hijn. Efteling is doing the same thing. If you go to a restaurant, you can order Efteling menus. Even Nintendo isn't about Nintendo anymore. They also went into different categories. So if you think about fitness, if customers think about fitness, Nintendo is a keyword that comes up. So that's, I think, also a big shift in our industry. And COVID is actually speeding up that whole transformation. You only not see that with Albert Heijn, but you see it also with the HoReCa, so the restaurants. Where now almost all restaurants of HoReCa is online. And that's speeding up, I think, every day. So what has happened is actually that the customer journey, the funnel, has become more of a cocktail glass. And that's super interesting. But another question, of course, is, yeah, but what about reach? What about upper funnel? And I think the same formula exists there. Because still, whatever happened with the speeding up of the customer journey and the whole shopper experience, still the split level of your media budget is 60% on brand building and 40% on the shopper experience. So how do we get along with that? How do we marry both shopper experience and your brand building? So let's go back again to understanding the customer. Like Steve Jobs said, and my design teachers, it's always about the customers. And there I want to give you a little explanation on how we think about customers. And I will give you an explanation, and I will take Joan Collins for that. So I think you all know this advertisement about Joan Collins, who's actually a bit nasty there. She doesn't feel good. So if you have such a person who doesn't feel good, you can say, hey, get up, get back to your reason. But what you actually should do is give her a Snickers, because a Snickers gives energy to your brain. And if your brain has energy, you will immediately see that your behavior will change, because you're activating the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is actually helping you to get grasp of your emotions. So your behavior will become way more friendly. And that has something to do with your environment, because if you're more friendly, your behavior changes, your environment will feel that impact. And that's important. So how we look at customers, we always look at them from three perspectives. We look at the brain, we look at the behavior, and we look at the environment. And we apply that knowledge actually when we look at brands. So if we look at brands, we look at how do people receive the brand in their brains. That's the most important thing, because brands don't exist. They only exist in our brains, in our neurons. So if we're understanding of how people perceive the brain and how the brand is built up by neuron in our brains, we get a broader idea of actually how we can manipulate people. And we also look at their behavior. And you see in marketing and in media, behavior is one of the most important measures. It's clicks, it's what do people do, what site do they visit, but it's just one part of the formula. And we're going to look at their environment. So where are they when they need a brand? Where are they when they shop? What device do they use? So this whole relationship between the brand, your behavior, and their environment, that's what we call the total customer experience. And that's actually the starting point for everything we do. So just look at the brand. So let's look at the mental availability. How do people perceive the brand? What do they recognize? What's their brand salience? I think Albert Heijn does a tremendous job in that. They're very consistent, so they've got this distinctive brand assets. It's always blue. They got a beautiful typeface. They got dat is het lekkere van Albert Heijn. You know that little song. In Holland, we all know that song. That's het lekkere van Albert Heijn. And you always got that girl, the store manager in the TPCs. So what they do is actually every of these distinctive brand assets is being branded in our brains. And that's what makes them so distinguishable as a brand. What they also do is, and that's also very important, they tap into what we know from Albert Heijn into the categories and they expand it. So one of an important category in Albert Heijn is, for me, it's like wine. So when I think of Albert Heijn and I think about wine, I also think about the little Iberico ham, which you can buy there, which is night on a Friday evening. So Friday evening, they connect that with Albert Heijn, with their wines. And you see that coming back in their marketing. It's very smart. So they're building out actually all the different categories, all the user needs they have, and their products, and they tie them in together to very strong category entry points. And through that, they're actually growing their brands. And then actually another thing is we also look at their behavior, the customer behavior. And one important thing is that you have to be not only mental available, but you also have to be physical available as a brand. And of course, Albert Heijn is super strong at that. They got over 850 stores. So everywhere you go, there is an Albert Heijn, but they're always there on TVC. They're always there. They have an app. They've got a website. They're on social. They even got, for kids, they got dinosaurs. So physical availability there in the environment of the customer. So there you already see that relationships happening. Then we also look at the customer behavior. So what's their relation looking from CRM perspective? What is their frequency of buying? What's their recency of buying? Where are they in the customer journeys? What type of categories do the customers love? Are they into potatoes, vegetable, fruit? Or are they more in the wine category? So start combining all these elements and getting a better idea of the brain of our customers, their behavior and their environment gives us a way more clear view on how we actually can grow the Albert Heijn brand, and especially in the brain of our customers. That's total customer experience. So what you see here is an image actually that how we want to grow that brain. So we look at the distinctive brand assets, we look at the behavior, we look at the categories. So maybe you the first time you went to Albert Heijn, you were buying, let's say, a pack of chewing gum, but we want to build that out. We got more, and I think that Albert Heijn does a great job in that. And that's why we're very happy as Merkle that we can support that. So coming back to the brain behavior and environment formula, we apply that. That's the starting point for gathering data, and we bring that data back into the funnel. We bring it from CRM actually way back. Maybe that's of course in the front of the funnel, but we bring it back all the way to the TVC, and that's a great thing. So with no further ado, I would like to give the next phase of the presentation to the co-host, the other host. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Could you just give me back control?
Yes, which button do I have to click? This one?
It's a... Yep.
Is it working?
I seem to have control. Yeah, it seems to be working.
Thank you, Thibaut.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm now going to give you access, Jeroen. Just a second. You seem to be controlling still my screen, Jeffrey.
See what happens.
Okay, it works.
Okay. Sorry for that.
No worries, Jeroen. I'm changing the host to you and should work now. Yes, we see your screen.
Perfect. Yeah, let's start off then. Well, welcome everybody. Putting the eye in groceries. See if the clicking works as well. Yes. Well, even in Belgium, you probably all know the brands of Ahold Delhaize, specifically bol.com, of course Delhaize, and Albert Hijn. Albert Hijn also has about 50 supermarkets, 51 since yesterday, I think, in Flanders. And what is remarkable is that Albert Hijn in Belgium actually is a budget brand with a high quality. So high quality, low prices. When we shift back to my native market, the Dutch market, Albert Hijn is perceived in a totally different way. Well, in the Netherlands, as you probably know, Albert Hijn is the market leader within the supermarket business. And whereas we are all well known in Holland for our high quality as well, we are not for our low prices. In the Dutch market, Albert Hijn actually is one of the most expensive and luxurious supermarkets. But as I said, we are a market leader and we put food on the table of 5 million people every day. People also choose to visit us about 3 times a week. So even though Albert Hijn is a mass brand, I think we managed to get a personal relationship with the consumer. And looking at data from a customer perspective has helped us tremendously in achieving all of this and in achieving that personal relationship. So today, Suzanne and I will show you 3 ways in which we are making smarter marketing decisions based on data. And we'll show you how our practical, pragmatic approach was the powerful engine of these decisions. To click again, yes. As Albert Hijn, we are very proud of the great deals we have for our customers within our bonus program. Let's take as an example this deal. Let's see if the video starts. Always exciting for mandarins. What you see here is you can buy one, get one for free. So who doesn't want that? But sometimes, as Albert Hijn, we get a bit over enthusiastic about our own promotions. And we decide to show those mandarins on TV. We tell on the radio about them. We put them on a leaflet. Yes, we can get a bit carried away and sometimes show those mandarins over 15 times in the same week. And probably if you like this promotion for mandarins, you would have remembered it after seeing it 4 or 5 times. Within Albert Hijn, we call this the compelling Albert Hijn rhythm. And last year in 2019, we decided to be smarter than that. Smarter for us as a company, but mostly smarter for our customers. Click. After all, it's all about those customers. So we cannot afford to get stuck in that Albert Hijn rhythm too much and in that Albert Hijn way of thinking. And we will be smarter than that. So the good news for all Dutch consumers, and I think the consumers in Flanders as well, is that since last year we try to show those mandarins only as often as necessary for you to know about them. And if you don't like mandarins, we try to show you something else that you do like. And that also meant a great news for us, because when we, in other words, started communicating more relevant messages, the recognition of our campaigns usually increased by 27%, even in mass media like TV. And the ROI on our marketing euros increased by 8%. And ultimately, this led to an increase of incremental revenue by marketing of 4% year on year. And all of this we achieved with a marketing budget that was the same throughout the years. How we did this? Well, in the next 25 minutes, I think we will show you how a pragmatic use of smart segmentation, the Albert Hijn marketing model, and predictive modeling yields such great business results. And by now, you probably wonder, who are these 2 people hosting this webinar? You only saw one of them. And why are they telling me this? Well, I'm here hosting this webinar today together with Susanne Klein. She's data lead at Dentsu Data Labs, or DNA. DNA is the Dutch insights and data label of Dentsu. And together with her team, Susanne brings data to life for Albert Hijn and other clients and translates this data into real-world actions.
Yes, and I'm presenting this case together with Jeroen Oosterbaan. And Jeroen sits in the marketing team of Albert Heijn, and he is responsible for performance, data, tech, and trading. And Jeroen's team is putting their customers first. They want to communicate in the most relevant and efficient way to their customers. So for this, they look at data from a customer perspective. So when Albert Heijn became a client of Dentsu in the beginning of 2019, we had one joint mission, and that mission was make smarter marketing decisions. Because we believe that that will lead to happier and to more customers and eventually to more revenue. So the great business results that Jeroen already shared with you in the beginning of this presentation are the results of a holistic data-driven approach for marketing. And that approach roughly consisted out of 3 main work streams. First of all, we made use of smart customer segmentation to make sure customers buy more and more often. The second project is about understanding the ROI of different channels. The Albert Heijn marketing model helps us to give insights in the effect of different touchpoints. And to make sure that we also grow in e-commerce, we use CRM data for predictive modeling. And predictive modeling helps us to be smarter in e-commerce and grow that part of the business as well. So in the next slides, we will give you more details about these 3 different work streams. Starting with smart segmentation. Well, I probably don't have to explain to you that data is about human behavior and that every data point tells you something about a person. To truly understand their behavior, it is important to acknowledge that people have different kinds of behaviors and different kinds of motivations. I mean, they do stuff, they say stuff, they research stuff online, and they buy things in store. However, there's not one single data point that captures all those different behaviors of people. And Arjan already showed you the declared measured social distinction. We also use that in this case. The declared data is the data coming from surveys. Measured data are in this case transaction or sales data or online behavior. And social data is the social media data that we have used for our smart segmentation. So we used all 3 different kinds of data sources also for this approach for our customer segmentation. Albert Heijn already did a segmentation themselves based on measured behavior. So based on their transaction data. They identified 3 different groups. The first group are primary customers. Those people spend more than 50% of their grocery shopping budget at Albert Heijn. Secondary customers are customers that spend between 25 and 50% of their grocery shopping budget at Albert Heijn. And tertiary customers spend less than 25% of their grocery shopping budget at Albert Heijn. And as you can see in the next slide, yes, these groups are really big, like 3 million, 4 million people per group. And we are also aware of the fact that those people are not the same, of course, when they are in one group. But at the same time, these 3 groups represent 90% of the shoppers in the Netherlands because Albert Heijn is market leader. So they have a big audience and they need big volumes. And they also only want to speak to large audiences because, as Jeroen mentioned before, they need to fill 5 million plates every day. So therefore, you need large audiences. That's why we chose to go a step further in understanding these specific audiences. So what we did is we made a deep dive in these audiences. So what are their interests? Why do they visit Albert Heijn? What media do they use, etc. So Albert Heijn already knew a lot about the audiences in terms of what they buy and how often, based on transaction data. From Dentsu, we could add a lot of declared data and media data to get a full picture of these different segments. We learned, for instance, that primary customers think location is more important than price or promotions. And for secondary and tertiary clients, that's different. Secondary customers, they come to Albert Heijn for the nice promotions. And tertiary clients, they come to Albert Heijn for also for promotions and for the lower price category within Albert Heijn. We also analyze their media behavior. What do they watch on television? How's their online behavior? Those kind of things, which we could implement in the media strategy as well. All with this idea in mind, to tell the right message to the right audience through the right channel. So therefore, we created a communication framework. You can see it on this slide. In the columns, you can see the different audiences, so primary, secondary, tertiary, and in the horizontals, you can see the different types of messages that Albert Heijn broadcasts to these audiences: brand, bonus, and savings campaign. The brand message changed last year. Albert Heijn introduced a new supermarket manager. This brand message, that the story you tell from a brand perspective, is the same, obviously, for 3 audiences, because that's the story of your brand. But with the promotion and the bonus and the savings campaign, it pays off to adjust it per audience. So based on the transaction data, we know that primary customers, for instance, they like to buy wine when it's in a bonus. But tertiary customers, they prefer products like meat or detergent. And the same is true for savings campaigns. So also here we diversify the message per audience. The primary customers, they like to save for wine glasses. And the tertiary customers, they come for Efteling tickets, to save for Efteling tickets. So it's a different message, but for large audiences. So you might think that this approach would probably work best in digital marketing. But is that also the case, Jeroen?
Well, too bad. I think there is a catch in this. Because Albert Heijn has got a lot of information or data about most of the people in the Netherlands. We know what they buy, we know what they eat, we know when they shop. But nonetheless, it's quite difficult for us to target everybody with a tailor-made message in digital marketing. And perhaps you're wondering how that is possible. Well, I think that has got to do with a number of things. For example, we have got the same privacy rules to follow as the rest of our country. I think those rules are quite the same in Belgium. And those rules are getting stricter and stricter. And we combine that with a high ethical standard. So everything that is even remotely intrusive or possibly unwanted, we don't do. It's also a matter of a lot of different divisions within our company that all have their own kind of data, but it's difficult to combine all those sources into one. And last but not least, Albert Heijn, as Suzanne already mentioned, has a lot of customers, and I mentioned this as well. Every week we want 5 million people to have our food on the table. So in order to reach that goal, we always want to send our message to large groups. And segments smaller than 250,000 are actually even a bit irrelevant. So if digital one-on-one marketing is not the way to go, in what kind of marketing can we make a difference with our customer data? We chose to think practically. What is the one media channel that currently has the highest spend in euro and the biggest impact? TV. So why don't start off with making our TV investment more relevant for our customers? And that's what we did. So because of the large investment we do in TV advertising, small changes over there could possibly already render great results. And within TV advertising, everybody is used to buying the product that TV publishers like RTL, Talpa, Ster, those are the 3 big Dutch publishers, want to sell us. So what happens then is that we all buy advertising for target audiences that they, so the RTLs and Talpas of this world, create for us, instead of buying advertising in our own target audience. We turn this around. Because we know such a lot about our primary, about our secondary and tertiary customers, we also know exactly what kind of programs and channels they are watching on TV. So in the summer of 2019, we stopped buying TV advertising the old-fashioned way. So no more prefabricated target audiences and no more aiming for the lowest of the lowest price. We follow our customers and show our commercials when they are watching. I think in 2018, my Deleuze colleague told me about an experiment he ran in the Belgian market, where it already was possible to adjust the TV commercials for different customers via their set-top box. And they had a cooperation with Telenet Belgium on this topic. I don't know the current status of this specific experiment, but unfortunately in the Netherlands, until now, we are not able or allowed to change the message we send to our customers based on their set-top box or ID. So in Holland, we couldn't do this in such an advanced way and had to look into the things that were possible after all. So perhaps this whole approach with using our own data doesn't sound very revolutionary, but we think it is. It's radically different than we in the Dutch market did it before. So we shifted part of our budget to more expensive channels and programs. And we did this because although it looks like we're buying really expensive TV broadcasting time, we actually know that for us, it isn't expensive at all. So we chose effectiveness over efficiency. And this is our shotgun approach instead of the scattergun that we used in the past. And you probably will want to know how we put this into practice, right? Suzanne?
Yes, I will show you. Here you can see two different TV commercials. The one on the left side is the TV commercial targeted for our primary customers. And the one on the right side, you see the TV commercial targeted on the tertiary customers. These messages are broadcasted to different audiences at the same time on television. Of course, as you can see, this is pre-corona. Because yeah, you can see the hamsters here. I'm not sure how the situation was in the Belgian market, but in the Netherlands, yeah, the hamsters had a different connotation during Corona. So I'm not sure if the hamster campaign will come back, Jeroen. But of course, you want to know if the results are positive right now. Well, I can tell you the results are positive. The blue line shows the campaign recognition. The gray line is the media spend. You don't have to be a data scientist to see that the results are very positive. With the same media spend, we now realize a higher campaign recognition, plus 27%, which leads to an 8% higher ROI on TV ads. So yeah, we brought this to the next level in 2020 because this strategy was from 2019. This new strategy, follow the customers on TV, was successful. So we also implemented this in other channels like radio and the digital channels. So in the digital channels, we excluded primary customers from paid media because they already have a lot of contacts with the brand, of course, through television, radio, but also through owned channels like email and in-store. So why bother them even more with paid media messages? Yeah, well, to conclude this section about segmentation, with the smart use of data, we learned more about our customers, which leads to smarter marketing in the end of 2019. And the first results of 2020 are positive as well. Of course, the whole COVID situation brings us in a different situation. So now we need to think about how to move forward with this strategy for next year.
Yes, then to our second example. Another example of next level marketing, I think, is the way we created and implemented the Albert Hijn marketing model and maximized the ROI of our marketing touchpoints. So we do this with marketing mix modeling and a weekly marketing funnel. Albert Hijn is a company highly driven by performance. So for every euro that we spend, we must convince our CFO that it's worth investing. And marketing costs money, a lot of money. And of course, the CFO also knows that marketing is useful. But we want to show him exactly how useful marketing is and how we can maximize the impact and effectiveness of our marketing activities. Our ultimate goal is to prove without any doubt to the CFO that our media investment actually brings us more money. And thereby we like to turn marketing in a driver of revenue instead of a cost item. So we want to know which mix of channels we have to use and how to get the highest bang for our buck in marketing and advertising. But how do you prove that marketing is a revenue driver? And after that, How do you ensure that more and more revenue comes out of marketing? Well, in order to know that, you have to, and in order to change media and a revenue driver, first you really have to know the mechanics of media. How do you get from input of euros, so media spent, to output of euros, revenue? What kind of flows are there? Unfortunately, marketing is not a slot machine in a casino. You can actually create quite a crystal clear view of the impact of it. That's why Albert Hijn already 5 years ago started with a series of studies called marketing mix modeling. As data-minded people, I think you probably know about this a bit, but as it plays a key part in our marketing strategy, I will elaborate on it a bit. So what marketing mix modeling does is it creates a highly detailed overview of all your marketing investments and campaign, and of all your sales data, in our case per supermarket location and per day, and combines this with all other variables that possibly influence revenue. For example, seasonality, activities of our competitors, shop openings, price level, etc., etc. And when you put this in a model, a highly sophisticated model, and do a linear regression analysis, you can calculate what we call in a fancy way the sales to cost ratio. In other words, the incremental ROI of your media investment, the revenue that actually is created out of marketing. So you can find the ideal mix of marketing channels, and because of the power of marketing is always in the mix. And the good thing is it also takes into account the long and the short-term impact of marketing. So with marketing mix modeling, we know exactly what the ROI is of our media channels, and most importantly, what our optimal mix of channels is. But how can you make the best use of this data? We actually have undergone quite an evolution in using the marketing mix modeling. At the start, we used it just as a study to gain insights and basically just evaluate our past performance. Did we earn our paycheck? 2 years ago, we started creating insights which we could use right away in media planning, budget allocation, in the flighting of campaigns, and in short-term testing. And in 2020, we took this a level further. We now predict our business results based on our current plans for campaigns and based on the optimal marketing mix. And we are continuously able to correct and improve our course in marketing in a fact-based way. So this sophisticated marketing mix model, we run only twice a year. But to be really effective, we also need to steer our business real time.
Yeah, it's great if you know twice a year how your channels perform as input for your media strategy. Of course, you also want to know how your business KPIs perform on a weekly level. And for this purpose, we build a high over dashboard, which combines all relevant business KPIs in one overview. You can see it here on the slide. These are fake data, by the way. In this overview, we can monitor all KPIs on a weekly level. It's visualized in a funnel, as you can see here, starting with euros. And from euros, we go to reach. You can see here the reach KPIs and contact frequency. Reach will lead to impact. And for impact, we use the KPIs campaign recognition and relevance. And impact eventually will lead to a revenue. This way, we can track the overall performance from media spends to sales on a weekly basis. And it also helps to get understanding in if the KPIs influence each other and to what extent. So these learnings we can implement in our media strategy as well. And we also update the board of Albert Hijn with these data on a weekly basis as well. To learn more about the effectiveness of your marketing euro, we also look at KPIs through time. Oh, you have seen this picture before, but it's a good example of how we use this into practice. So besides these marketing mix modeling exercise and weekly funnel views on high-level business data, we also look at what the competition is doing, of course. We do campaign deep dives, periodic reviews. These are all necessary to learn about the media strategy, to learn about media effectiveness, about the ROI, all for the input for the strategy, but also to keep the CFO informed. So I am wondering, Jeroen, if he is still happy.
Well, he was happy, at least before COVID-19 entered our world. And at that time, he had all the more reason to be. Because the Albert Heijn marketing model and the shift from explanatory to predictive use of it gets us great results. It created a culture in which we could make radical budget shifts between and within channels based on data. The smart segmentation we showed you before is an example of this. Other examples are that we increased our investment in TV even further and highly optimized our spends in display and search advertising. And we also shifted the balance between our branding, our promotion and savings campaigns more and more towards branding. And in that way, we were able to optimize the ROI on every marketing touchpoint. And that helped us increase the contribution of incremental sales from media with 8% per year for the last 2 years. As I said, with a media budget that was about the same as the years before. And most important, we convinced the entire Albert Heijn organization that marketing actually is the revenue driver we are always that enthusiastic about. Well, yes, we even convinced our CFO. So we have a nicely implemented Albert Heijn marketing model. There's one specific topic where we can make even bigger steps with data, and that's e-commerce. So for me personally, as a busy father of 2 kids, doing my groceries online really is a perfect solution. So every week, I use the Albert Heijn app to place an order in the online shop. And the day after, this friendly colleague of mine is on my doorstep to deliver my groceries. Well, did you ever wonder how these groceries get into these beautiful blue crates? When I started working at Albert Heijn, I got introduced into the wondrous world of e-commerce and the order picking in e-commerce. And I was amazed because an e-commerce order is really complex, at least a supermarket order. I order a sort of random combination of products, bananas and milk, which have to be kept cool. I order detergent, I order garbage bags, wine, pharmaceutical products, etc., etc. And what happens after my order is that literally someone else is doing my groceries. Someone else is going through all the shelves of a sort of mega supermarket and collecting all my stuff. You can imagine that this is quite time intensive and it's quite a costly activity as well. And I didn't even get started about the delivery of all those goods to random addresses through traffic jams. Well, not now, but usually there are a lot of traffic jams in Holland and busy cities. So all in all, doing my groceries online saves me a lot of time, but costs Albert Heijn a lot of effort. And the $1 million question is therefore, let's click. See if the presentation wants to click as well. If we want to grow this business, how can we do that in a sustainable and profitable way? That isn't as easy as it looks like. Nevertheless, every year more and more people are doing their grocery shopping online. And e-commerce, therefore, is one of the main growth engines of Albert Heijn. We are a market leader in the Netherlands and of course would like to stay in that position. We want to grow this business in a sustainable and profitable way. And the key to that, of course, again, is looking for the right customers and target them at the right moment. And for that, we use a lot of data.
Yes, and if there's one place where all the data comes together of both customers and transaction data, it's e-commerce. We know exactly who orders what and when. So from the data, we learned that a big group of people that places their first order online doesn't come back within 28 days within the first month. Also, we know that people after they have placed a fourth order, they come into a certain rhythm, which is logical because doing groceries is a habit. And finding this habit, this rhythm, is step 1. And once we found that rhythm, we want to keep it or even accelerate it. We already worked a lot with analysis and data visualizations to show first patterns, but if you want to truly understand the underlying relations and be smarter, you need to work with predictive models. So in this case, we have worked with the buy till you defect model for the data scientist in the room. This model predicts 2 things. First of all, is your client still active? And second of all, when will he come back to place an order? In this case of this person, you see that he has an order rhythm of 14 days. He orders every 14 days, and yeah, we call him a loyal customer. So what we would like to do now is that when he didn't place an order, he will get a reminder or a personal promotion from Albert Hijn. So we help him doing his groceries. Another thing is maybe we want to accelerate this rhythm and get him into a 7 days rhythm, or maybe we want to try to fill his basket even with more products, all with the idea to help the customer in his online shopping experience as well. Well, yeah, to conclude this last project, we showed you that with this project, we not only helped our customers with making it easier to do groceries, but this approach also helps the e-commerce business to be smarter with our marketing euro as well. So back to where we started, Jeroen.
Sorry, I have to click. So the last, I think 30 minutes, we showed you 3 ways in which we implemented our mission to make smarter marketing decisions. Via smart segmentation, more customers are buying more often. The marketing mix modeling and the weekly marketing funnel helped us increase the ROI on our marketing touchpoints. And via the predictive modeling, Suzanne showed us, we are helping our customers and thereby we are growing e-commerce. And this brought us real business results. We improved the campaign recognition and the ROI on our marketing touchpoints. And ultimately, we increased the contribution to sales by 4%. If you have to remember one thing about this presentation, it's this. We would never have reached this goal if not for our practical, pragmatic approach. So don't get slowed down by things like incomplete data, lack of data knowledge, or silos in your organization. And to quote a famous shoe brand, just do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeroen and Suzanne, for this really compelling presentation. It was really interesting. For those listening, if you have any questions, now is the moment. Please feel free to put them in the Q&A section in Zoom. During your presentation, Jeroen and Suzanne, I also jotted down a few things. This is quite an intensive project and puts a lot of change in how you think about media. How long was the process between, let's say, ideation and the moment of implementing it into new media plans?
Yes, it's indeed quite intensive project. I think yeah, it differs per work stream. But let's say the first one about the segmentation, I think that costs us, well, roughly 3 months to get the insights and to implement it, to make an implementation plan for the media strategy. And then of course you need to have the media strategy for a while, like let's say 3 to 6 months to see if it's really effective.
Okay, thank you. And going forward, you see that this is already something quite advanced. What are the next steps in even optimizing further? What are your plans into going further into this one-to-one relation with your customers?
Well, yeah, of course we really want that one-to-one relation but I already mentioned it's quite difficult for us because of the large number of customers we do have. But what we're thinking about right now, for example, is the thing we showed you about the TV advertising, etc. We're even thinking about optimizing that large investment in TV on a week-by-week basis. So to steer within a week in our TV budgets towards certain segment of customers and certain channels or publishers, etc. So to go more in depth into those mass communication channels.
All right, thank you. Maybe another question about data. Both in your presentation and in Jeffrey's presentation, we've seen the importance of data. I'll maybe ask the question to Jeffrey, where we saw that e-commerce data was really important for the Albert Heijn case. What would you say would be the types of data that you really need to be able to do such exercises?
To start with, what do you mean? Can you be
Yeah,
more
to
specific?
start with these type of exercises.
I think it's more about having clear understanding what you want to do with the data. That's the most important thing. So I see great examples with customers who actually didn't have that much data as Albert Heijn, way less, and still do very impactful things. So yeah, start with what you really want to do and how you want to help the customer actually to create a better shopping experience. That would be
Yeah,
my
exactly. It's not about the amount of data that you have. It's about, okay, what do you want? What's your goal? What do you want to achieve? And then see if you have that data available. And if not, then you can always collect data. But we always say, don't collect data just because you want to collect data, but you have to have a plan with it. You need to make them actionable. So that's always what we advise.
What I find very appealing about Albert Heijn is that they focus on really big audiences. And I think that's also very important I would recommend it to every client. Every consumer could be a potential consumer. And if they're further up in the funnel, still try to get that reach. So then focus on your categories. So maybe people want to buy this or that from you, but still it's always about reach.
In the meantime, I see that there's a question coming in the Q&A, more related to the current situation. And the question is there anything you will need to change in this approach due to COVID-19, or does everything still work well?
Well, we did change some things.
Except the hamstering, maybe.
Yeah, of course, yeah, in Holland, that's quite a famous, it's almost a second brand of Albert Heijn, the hamster. Which that we buy a lot of stuff for low prices in a certain week. But yeah, sorry, my video isn't working anymore. I don't know why. Same error I got before. But what we had to change is our e-commerce business is more popular than ever right now. So basically, it is quite impossible to get an order slot right now. So it's really necessary to do a lot of marketing for e-commerce right now. So that's one of the things we really had to change in our approach at this moment. So that's one thing we really did do different than before. Other things. During the COVID, the real Corona crisis, so the past few months, we shifted a lot of budget towards a smaller number of channels, for example. So we really did a sort of crisis communication. I think what a lot of brands did, and we decreased our media budget at first. And right now we're actually quite turning it back to normal, except so for the e-commerce, because you can't promote what you can if your product isn't available. It's quite difficult to promote it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So guys, I'm gonna thank you again for this really interesting session with you. I think we have a lot to think about. I want to thank everyone who has been on the webinar. Should you have any further questions related to these topics, please contact us either through your client leads at Dentsu, either through the Brand Recovery Series team. We are going to do a follow-up, obviously, from Merkle on to show you what we can do for you in terms of services from Merkle. That will be done by Just Greve, sorry, are responsible for Merkle here in Belgium. So thank you very much, and tune in next week for our next webinar on the 1.5 meter economy. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks.